Right, welcome everybody to a mislabeled episode of Leave No Trace Principles in the Southwest, but we're not there, I lied. Busy guy. So I'm going with what I know, and this is my hometown on a river I grew up playing on in the heart of Vancouver, Washington, called the Salmon Creek. And I want to talk about LNT principles and behaviors around waterways and how we interact with them, right? There's all kinds of ways to recreate with a waterway. There's fishing and kayaking, swimming, weather permitting, right? Rafting or floating in the summertime when it's hot. You guys all want to go out and maybe have a couple, right? So we go rafting. There's all sorts of ways that we interact with it, and each way kind of requires us to behave in similar principles, right? There's three, I call it PBS, right? Plants, bugs, and sewage. When we're interacting with a riverbank, I'm going to focus mostly on riverbanks, right? Because at some point in all of our outdoor experiences as individuals, we're probably going to come up against a point where we're going to have to fjord a river or a canyon or a dry river. And they all kind of have, right? It's water and life. It's an old relationship, and so we need to be mindful of that and how we interact with the river or the riverbank. So plants, right? Plants hold a riverbank together. You can see all here, right? They form natural bridges for us. They keep water from just eating away all the soil. They're very critical. So we always need to focus on the leave no trace principle of sticking to well-established trails along rivers. Not just for the sake of erosion, no doubt, right? We can see where it's happening here, and I'll get a close-up of a bad spot over there. And it's, besides the leave no trace of not damaging the riverbank, it's a safety thing. You can fall off an 8-foot embankment, and then you're leaving a big old trace, and you're floating down the river. So, bugs is the next one, right? Aquatic bugs. When we're in a river, or say we're launching a craft in and out, or we need to stop and get out of our kayak, or get off our float tube, or whatever we're doing. And if we're in waders and we're out fishing, we need to be mindful of the fact that there is a super diverse aquatic insect population in the bottom of the river. Bugs that live for years, right? Dragonflies and all sorts of bugs that act as a very important biofilter for our water, right? This river is super high. We're right in the heart of Vancouver, and you better believe that a whole lot of that water is coming off our streets. But this river is actually a really cool comeback story. It was decimated in the 80s and 90s by the housing boom here. And right now there is steelhead swimming up this river in mass again. It's really a cool comeback story. So there's a really important bug population here that these fish feed on, that the baby fish feed on. And they live under rocks. All those bugs live under rocks. That's where they hide. That's where they can get out of the current. That's where the stuff they eat collects. And so every time we walk through, if we have the option, we don't want to cross through there, right? We have a log bridge. It takes us across, and so we stay away from the bugs. We don't damage them. If we have to, maybe we go on that real high spot that maybe you can see out there, and we use stepping stones. And at the very least, if we have to, we need to watch for game trails, right? Well-established trails. If we're out in the backcountry, maybe there's not a game trail. And we've come up to a river, and we need to get across it to get to our next location on our map or wherever we're going. But all we see is bushes and not very crossable. Look for a game trail. It's natural, right? It's a natural, well-trodden path that's established, and I guarantee you, if you need to cross that river, there's some animals that have already done it before you a lot, and there's gonna be, just look for that little hole, and you'll see a dirt path. Maybe it's a beaver slide. Maybe it's a well-established deer path, and you can see the deer prints. Just look for those so that as you come out of the water, you're not damaging the banks of wherever you're going through. You don't want to be damaging the riverbanks. They're pretty delicate. And I've had buddies when we've been out fishing that have fallen 6 feet off, and their waders got all full of water, and it ended the day for us. It was a lot of fun. So that's the main part I want to focus on is it's the common experience. Maybe you don't recreate at all around water. Maybe you don't go rafting or kayaking. Maybe you don't go swimming even. I guarantee you you're gonna come up against a situation out in the backcountry. Maybe it's a dry riverbed and you're out in the desert. Maybe we are in the Southwest and you got to get across this riverbed, crossing a high point where you can tell water wouldn't have pooled, right? Because in a spot where wavy water pooled, there could be bugs or microlife, all kinds of stuff that have held into that damp soil. That's how they survive. And you walking through it disturbs a microsystem that's really delicate. So PBS, plants, bugs. The last one's sewage. So when we're out recreating around water, if at all possible, every time you can, stick to your 70 steps, right? Get away from the water and go out there. So it's pretty simple, right? What can happen, right? So say you've got an area like this where there's fast moving water and then slow moving water. And maybe I've been kayaking for a while and I really need to go. And I get out and I go over to kind of a slow moving slack water and I go in there. Problem is my urine is full of urea and ammonia and all kinds of other micronutrients. Nutrients relatively. But it can shock a microsystem. There could be it's like a tide pool or something, right? A small little body of water that you just dumped half a gallon of human waste into can really damage it. You could sterilize a whole area that might have some sort of really important bacteria that you don't know about. You gotta be mindful of this stuff. So I guess if it was really an emergency and you really, really had to go where it's moving, you know? And pull your body down to 10L. Be mindful, folks. Water's the only thing that all life has in common, you know? So we gotta be really appreciative of it. We need to be mindful of how we recreate around it. You know, say you're floating or something, I always carry an onion bag or an orange bag because it's a net and it drains. And anytime I keep it tied up to my raft or my kayak, and if I find garbage along the way, you just throw it in there, and at the end of the day, you take care of it. And it's a really, really simple, effective way to deal with your garbage near waterways is just an old onion bag or an orange bag. So remember those three principles. It's plants, and that involves all our erosion and all those sorts of things. Plants, bugs, sewage. This is what we got to think about when we're around water. And so yeah, I'll give you guys a close-up on some of the things I want to mention about erosion and things like that. So here is where some guy, you can see his boot prints there and there, decided to come out at the wrong spot, right? We started in gravel, which is where you do want to enter and exit water if you can. No plants right there, right? Just gravel. So he tried to come in on the gravel, and then he came up here when he could have walked around and came up on the cement and been on a well-established trail, right? Here, say we do need to get over there. I'm wearing waders, right? Maybe I'm going fishing, and I can go pretty deep without I'm distressed. Instead of doing that and disturbing the riverbed and whatever kind of bugs and little aminals are living in there, take the bridge. Nature will provide you a bridge sometimes, and if not, step and stone it, right? Try to stay out of the water. Find those game trails. You can see maybe there's a little bit of a game trail. See those little gaps in between the grass where you'll find a trodden path in there, and that's where you want to exit. Anyways, guys, just be mindful, be careful. You never know what kind of garbage you might find in a river, so always be careful. Our waterways are wonderful places that we all should enjoy and share. And here's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in the Pacific Northwest. Stay safe out there, leave no tracers.